Welcome to Proactive. Proactive empowers you to stay ahead of the news and understand the intricacies of governance. We dive deep into the world of politics, governance, and government with a special focus on Kenya. In each episode, we'll explore why every individual must grasp how governance works and how informed citizens can shape a better future. Join us as we break down complex topics, provide insightful analysis, and equip you with the knowledge you need to be proactive, not reactive, in today's ever-changing political landscape. Tune in and become a more informed and engaged citizen. Welcome to Proactive.
Good to see you, Coach.
Thank you. Even though last time you got me declared opinionated by a friend of mine who's known me for too long, so I don't know why he decided to bring up such issues.
What's wrong with having an opinion?
Thank you. That's why I was hoping we would go first. Because really, are we so scared of people having an independent opinion that anytime you air it, it's looked down upon? Because really, what use is an intellect if you can't have an opinion? And that goes back to what I said during the previous episode. We've got a thinking problem. Tunaogopa. Yes, even though I was told the other day that your brain consumes most of your energy.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so by you not thinking, you save energy and most likely grow fat.
What would you... We have not even started the recording yet.
No, it's painful.
You see, kuna opinion na kuna kuongea mbaya.
No, hiyo kuongea mbaya ni nini? That's what I'm trying to understand. To me, kuongea mbaya is that you're not telling us what we want to hear. Yes. Or what is kuongea mbaya?
Come up like calling people idle.
But I saw them sitting, doing nothing. The English term for that
is idle.
You
just made it clear.
Yeah, so what was I supposed to say? Mbona mnakaa mmekaa hapa hakuna kitu mnafanya?
What else has been happening this week? What has caught your attention?
I walked by one of the roundabouts on Uhuru Highway. And I noted that the policemen are now a permanent presence. And I looked around even for the poles that used to hold up the traffic lights, and they are gone. Which means no one has any intention of bringing back automated traffic control. We have decided progress, sio yetu, ilikuja na gari ya moshi, na tusha change tukaenda SGR. So, and a few days before, I'd actually had a conversation with a young engineer. And I'd actually asked him, why do you think traffic lights and zebra crossings exist? And he says to control people and traffic. I told him, no, that's not it. In my opinion, again, me being opinionated, traffic lights and zebra crossings are critical for us to live our lives conscious. If you're driving your vehicle, every so often you'll need to look at the light and act. If it's a zebra crossing, it's telling a pedestrian, you need to plan where you're going to cross, which brings other things. Where you'll get off the matatu will determine such decisions. But what it does is it moves us to a different level of appreciating order. Now, the fact that we have a government that's making sure there's no order, the English word is anarchy. So we should stop trying to look at anarchy the way it was looked at in medieval England. The modern anarchy is denying people the opportunity to think on a regular basis. That's anarchy. Yes. And I now believe it's by design. People will tell me I'm being, what do you say I normally am? Looking for the word. Conspiratory. Yes. But when it's happening consistently, you change governments, you change constitutions, you literally change everything, but the journey is the same, downhill. How much longer? Will we continue to go downhill without thinking? Because at some point we'll wake up and will not be able to think. So we have entire generations, literally almost 2 generations, that have not had to think. And now they're getting into decision-making positions. Will this country be in another 20 years?
That is very scary.
Yes.
Especially the last comment you're saying, people who have not been thinking, being in positions where they have to make decisions for how a country, an organization needs to move forward.
Yes. And that means that we shall be colonized easier than it was done last time.
Now that's scarier.
Well, maybe it's what we need. Yes. And you listen to what the West is talking about and the rest. And then you look at how our heads of state react to an issue. And you realize that, yes, those who don't think are now in positions of authority. This morning, I was listening to a case about WHO and the COVID vaccine. At the height of the pandemic, the West had enough vaccines to vaccinate their entire populations 10 times. By that time, Africa had only been able to vaccinate 2% of its population. Seriously, that Western civilization is not interested in us. They literally were hoping would be wiped out by COVID. That was it. It was literally an elimination strategy. But yet our leaders have not seen it. They continue to carry themselves to go across and listen to pedestrian conversations about Africa rising and such. Yet these people literally attempted to wipe out the African. But are we thinking about it? No. We're discussing petty issues like whether the president should charter a plane or not. We're not asking ourselves, why do we keep going to listen to a people who have shown us multiple times that if it was their decision to make, they would wipe out the African and the Asian populations?
I think in the course of the week, we had a similar conversation, maybe not in those specific lines.
Yes.
I've never had a Kenya-Europe summit, but all the time we have all our 50 heads of state going around the world, meeting this one figurehead. What are we missing as Africa?
Again, it means that those 50 heads of state can't think.
Okay.
Yes.
What will it take to change that? Because if we are in a position where those, like you're saying, people who are not thinking in those serious positions, who are supposed to lead a generation, who are supposed to lead a society, are in those positions of power, then how can we reverse that?
It comes to the lie about us having a middle class. It is that middle class that can change the mindset. It's that middle class that can change direction. Why? And what is it about a middle class? We keep confusing it with a middle income. And then we celebrate it. I've always said it. Seeing somebody, and this scared me one time, seeing somebody parking a vehicle worth 15 million shillings, stepping off it to go and buy clothes hanging on a fence, used clothes hanging on a fence and on the floor. Seriously, there's a serious disconnect somewhere. 15 million car, but you'd rather wear a blouse for 500 shillings. So how exactly did that person afford the 15 million vehicle? Which means we are being paid. The more you're paid is more likely because the less you're able to think. We don't have a middle class. The middle class would have set up private schools. They would have controlled the curriculum for those private schools, and they would have changed it from that point. At least create a stop point. We don't have to continue digging, but at least let's stop. Let's stop digging. Yes, we might not cover the whole, but let's start by stopping to dig. Mm-hmm. Yes. I told this to some people who run so-called private schools, who are in the government system, the Kenyan system, as most people call it. And I listened to their issues. Their issues were all about the CS, the PS, the KICD. And I asked them, are you running private schools or public schools? Because you can't make any decision. So I told them, you know what you are? You run public schools using private funds. I said, what do you mean? I said exactly that. Just take that and go think it through. You run public schools using private funds. So this problem is not only us. Let's go and look at the charter school issues that are happening in the US today. What is it about? It's about a middle class that realizes there's a mass indoctrination going on and our children shall not be indoctrinated. It is only a middle class that can think that way. We have none. And until we can redevelop a middle class, we're in trouble.
So we have middle income.
Yes.
We don't have a middle class.
No.
What's the plan of building that? Or can you describe what a middle class looks like and how can we create one that kind?
The middle class one is said it's mainly people who make money from their intellect, which therefore means they're a mobile community. Means that if you frustrate them, they can pack up and leave because they don't need a physical location to earn a living. They carry their skills, their tools in their head. That's your middle class. And unless we have that, we are going nowhere. And that's where it needs to start. We need to go back and tell people who are coming out of universities and high schools that their mandate is to think. Yes. Their mandate is not to look for employment. Their mandate is to think. Yes. And that's where it needs to start.
100%. I think with education, I think that is the beginning. And the other day, like you're talking about the charter schools, I was listening to this series that was on NPR, and they were talking about book banning.
Yes.
So for me, forget about the issue of banning books. For me, the issue is these are parents actually taking this role actively in terms of what are my kids reading.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't get that. And I don't see that a lot. Because what I see is parents complaining about what CBC is making them do.
Again, I'm sure you know my position on CBC. It's a competency-based curriculum. So if this one is competent, what was the other one? Which therefore means all the ones who are trying to implement it are incompetent. And the parents, and that's why they're complaining.
You know, I did the other one. So
stop
throwing jabs.
No, it's not the other. It's all the others. It's actually all the others before. And we believe that by changing the name of something, we've changed its objective. We haven't. CBC is a curriculum, which means it's an outcome. Yeah. It's not a process. And the process of getting to achieve the curriculum is called a syllabus. The syllabus is at the discretion of the teacher. Yes. We've called it standardization of outcome, not standardization of process. But we've turned it into a standardization of a process. That all the children must look for neon yellow, or is it neon green manila paper with which to make something. And I ask people, do you think in Wajir the child has been asked to bring neon green manila paper? No. So you, sitting with an advanced degree, can't sit and ask, why is a school asking me to do something that is illogical? You're paying fees, because definitely the person I'm talking about, their child is not sitting in a government school. And actually even all that shenanigans does not happen in public schools. It mainly happens in private schools where the middle class should be active. So if the middle class is not in the private school, then where are they? So think about it.
It is something, it is very serious, especially because I think unless we can start there, like you said, unless we can start from the school level, then we'll continue digging this hole.
Yes, and start celebrating the digging. We start giving awards for who can dig faster. That's what we are doing. Mediocrity is now institutionalized. Yes. Go against the norm, kuongea vibaya. and you shall be beaten into a pulp. Yes.
We want people to behave in the same.
No, we don't want people to force us to think.
Okay.
It consumes energy. Yes.
Thinking is not easy, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now
that's why we have fewer inventors than,
Okay, it's not, to me, the inventors need to be few. Otherwise, we have too many things running around that have no cohesion.
Yeah.
But we need more and more of innovators, which is where the true thinking happens. It's more the application part of it. Yes. So you look at, I think I was looking, I watched some video going around by somebody who should know better, and saying that because of the 25% increase in the cost of cooking fat, the cost of bread shall go up by 25%. So I actually went and looked for the recipe for 400 grams of bread. Do you know how much oil you need?
No.
2 teaspoons. So how does the increase of 25% on 2 teaspoons of oil increase the price of the entire product? That's the thinking I'm saying. We have gotten to that point. And this is somebody who should be intelligent enough to think through that before clicking send. But not only did he send it, but he continued to comment on it and to defend its position. We've lost it. Okay, we've almost lost it. But again, the only way then to reverse it will have to be the thing we keep avoiding, which is revolution. I'm not referring to violent revolution, but there must be a revolution. If it's a revolution of the mind or something, it has to happen. Otherwise, we will be wiped out. Because don't forget, the West has poisoned all their soils. They will have nowhere to grow crops, which is why they've started by telling us we cannot use our traditional crops. Seed. They're telling us we should not use organic fertilizers. They're telling us that we need to open our markets to their products. Yeah. Why? So sooner or later, being wiped out, we shall be wiped out. But we shall be at a point where somebody will look at us from the West and say, we are actually doing them a favor by eliminating them. Look at how they have deteriorated. They no longer seem like humans. So we are actually eliminating a parasite. That's how bad it's going to be. I don't think I live long enough, but I hope I don't.
Is that why one should be there? I mean, you've painted such a
grim picture.
Yeah.
I think that's where we need to start, at the extreme. This piecemeal thinking. Yeah. I listened to, I think I shared it with you, the TED Talk on the African intellectual who was saying, Africa rising is an illusion. But we were told we are rising. And no one told us what rising looks like. How high do you need to get so that we know you're rising? But yet, what are you doing? You're digging a hole. So after you crouch, you dig a hole. When you stand up, you believe you're making progress. Then you go back to continue digging the hole. Then every time you stand up, you think you're making progress. That's what it's about. And it's been indoctrinated into us completely. Academia has refused to think. We have killed our middle class completely. So the only way we'll survive is now we need a Messiah. Go read your Bible, go read your Quran, go read your Gita. It's not about religion. It's about a revolution. It's about a revolution of the mind. It's about taking what was looked at as the status quo and change it. Yes. It's scary. And some things you find out later. Maybe that's why the white man is concerned we got to look at the Bible. Because only the other day that I noted a reading that literally on the day of crucifixion of Jesus, everyone who was in Jerusalem was actually a Jew in terms of the faith. Whether it was Simon from Cyrene, there were people from Mesopotamia, there were people from across the world in Jerusalem, which means the Jewish faith was not a faith restricted to the Israelite. It was actually the fastest growing faith.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. They literally were all Jews. There was no one else. They spoke in different dialects, but they were all Jews. Yes. But a clique was starting to take over and control it. And that's a clique that was being eliminated. Yes.
Which book is this again?
It's called the Bible.
The Bible has several books.
Well, I've told you before, I'm a Catholic. We rarely quote scripture.
No, I need to go and refer.
I can give you the date. Go and read about what festival is this? It's the what's it? It's the coming of the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Yes, where the apostles walked out speaking in different tongues.
Yes.
And everybody had them in their own
Languages, yes.
And then there's a whole list of who are present in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And literally they were all different kinds of Jews. So the names you'd think were names of places, they were names of description. So there's a group whose name I went and Googled means those who converted from other faiths to Judaism.
Okay.
But otherwise, everyone was in Jerusalem for Passover from the various
locations they came from.
Yes. And so you ask yourself, so this has been happening over time. People have been wiping out others, mainly because of ideology.
Yeah.
And we are due for another one.
That has been happening for quite some time.
Yes.
You go back to the Bible itself, when Gideon, when Samson,
yes,
all these people, they were even the guy who took over after Moses, Joshua and Caleb, they all went to wipe out the other.
Yes.
The Philistine, the Canaanites, all of them.
And what they were eliminating was a mindset.
Okay.
Yes. And we're not conforming to somebody's. And that is why we are being slowly pushed to an edge.
So how do you keep yourself always not to be the target? Because I mean that is I think the green picture you've painted, it's scary. So it's high time we figure out, so how do we become at par?
Always be in the present. Stop doing things instinctively. You're not an animal. Anything you do must be conscious. Why you're putting on your left shoe before your right must be conscious. Why you're brushing your teeth bottom then top should be conscious. Everything you must think it through before you do it. Don't be instinctive. And I think that's what we are losing. Because if you lived in the forest, you could not be instinctive. Because human flesh is very sweet for most animals. So the fact that we have survived most of them tells you that there's something we developed that allowed us to survive. But now we are killing whatever that was. Yes. We now just want to get into a bus, go to sleep, get on our phones, and get to the other end. Yes. Whether the driver is drunk and he's drinking. Literally, he's got a bottle of alcohol right on his dashboard, and you all get in and go. He's chewing miraa, and you get in. It's only after the accident happens, then some brilliant person is saying, unajua tu driver actually kuwa amelewa. Seriously. It's not like it was the last bus to Pluto. That if you miss it, you'll never go. So if all of you realize something's wrong with the driver and you don't take the matatu, things will change. But you know very well, you've got a drunk driver. He will be stopped 5 times, 10 times, 20 times by police officers who will pick a bribe and let him continue. Because really, even to me, I'm thinking about it. To the police officer, he must be thinking, 40 grown-ups in a bus are allowing themselves to be driven by a drunk. Who am I to think for them? 40 minds against my one? Give me my 200 bob. Maybe you're in an agreement. You have a pact. So why should I participate in this private pact? Proceed. I thought we were going to discuss the budget.
This is more because everything else really stems from this.
Exactly.
The decision to even stop the finance bill.
Yes.
The decision to question it. You sent me something that one of the MPs actually publicly admitting to have not read something they're going to discuss.
Yes.
So the decision makers, we've gotten to that point where the decision makers don't actually think.
The people who, what's the word I'm trying to think of? The people who are the best reflection of you are the ones who will percolate to the top. And we have what we call a representative democracy. So all those people sitting in parliament are the true reflection
Of our society.
And then how do you expect them to make the decision? We have not read it. So how do you expect them to read it? And they did not make it there because they read things. They made it there because they refused to read. And they came to you with statements that had not been thought through, and none of you questioned it. And you accepted. Yes. When somebody comes and tells you, I'll bring you water, and you're wondering, where from? Yes. But yet you vote the person through. So I was thinking about this the other day again. Like you said, being without, sitting in a matatu just looking out the window can be very dangerous. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe I need to start driving again. And I thought, the only position that I think needs to have an election is an MCA. I think all the other positions need to be based on your competency. For you to become a minister, become an MP, a governor, a senator, it needs to be based on capacity. Yes. I think the only place where you have to directly interact with a politician should be at MCA level, at your ward, because you can all pick up hammers and track down the person and deal with them accordingly if they do not conform. But when you tell me to vote for an MP who will disappear for 5 years, you tell me to vote for a governor who will be sitting in some colluded place. So I need to be able to get to the person who can go and pull that governor from wherever he is and cast him out. Yes. Because otherwise, the rest of the election, 99% of us are clueless of what we should be looking for in an MP, in a governor, in a senator, in a president. We don't know. The only person who will directly impact you is your MCA. And that is the only person you should be given the right to vote for. Yes. All the rest should be people we can hire and fire at will. Yeah. Because those 4 MPs who say they had not read the bill, the first thing that should happen is they should be impeached. Yeah. But what is it? Oh, comedy. Yes, let's enjoy it. Here's the scary part. The bill had been tabled a week before the statement he made. Yes. It's only that debate has not started. But the bill has been tabled. Yeah. So we have a budget. We have a budget we pay researchers for every member of parliament. Where are they? You see how we refuse to go down and ask ourselves, where is the core problem? The core problem is still me. Yes. If I sit back and not comment, then I'm just part of the problem. Because really, look at the budget that goes to an MP's office. He's allowed to hire, I think, 3 people in his constituency who are supposed to do what? Research, engage with the public and whatever. When there's a bill that is coming up, he's supposed to summarize it and send it back to the people. Then the people come back to him with what their opinion is, what they think. Should you vote this or that? So you're not voting for yourself. That's what we forget. It's called representative democracy, but not his decision. It's he represents. So he must always go back. Before he raises his hand to vote on anything, even if it's the changing of the sign on the toilet in parliament, it is not for him to decide, or her. They must go back to the people who they represent and let them come back. Yeah. So somebody the other day says, reach out to your MP. Tell me, what is your MP's contact address?
I don't know.
So how are you supposed to reach him? When he shows up on the ground next election?
For a campaign.
With promises again and disappear.
Yeah, with the roads and stadiums.
Yeah. I remember the case of a politician in America who blocked somebody on Twitter. And was told, you cannot. You cannot. You're a public figure. You must listen to everyone and anyone.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the idea. Even they are grappling with that issue. At times people forget. It is still representative democracy. Therefore, I need to know where to find you as my representative. And since you're hiding in Nairobi and I'm sitting in Kabartonjo, then it's a waste of time me lining up to vote for you. Let me vote for my MCA, and I tell my MCAs, you decide who you want to give the job of MP. And if there's an issue, you're the ones to go and bring him back and give us someone else. Yes. If it's the governor, you tell us. You go and pick the governor. Give him the job. But remember, if there's any issue, we deal with you. Done. Yes. And clear rules apply. You must live within the ward. Don't relocate. If you're the MCA for Kibera, one of the wards, you should live in Kibera. Or maybe that's why now we have our slums next to a affluent location. So Mathare, you can live in Muthaiga. You're still in the same ward. Yeah. Yes. I think we need to do something radical. It has to happen. And it'll either happen by design or it'll just default and happen.
Maybe these conversations will be the beginning of everything.
I'll keep my fingers crossed on this one. Because I've learned. You just need to touch a few.
Yeah.
Yes. Faith-wise, it took Jesus and 11 men. Yes.
11 or 12 plus him 13.
There was
or the one, you're counting the one who decided to...
There was Judas, even though he was then replaced by a very nice guy, Paul. Yeah.
And Paul did miraculously. He went all over.
Paul is the one who moved the...
Yes. This is another conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy. It's just why I say it's... Think about when the Bible was written. Okay? 2,000 years ago was when we started the New Testament. The Old Testament existed another 1,000 years or so before. I don't think it was written because people were idle. I think they were grappling with the same thing we are grappling with.
Yeah.
And they documented it. And they shared it. And it changed societies. And I think we need to go back and try and ask ourselves, where is our Bible for now? Because that's what we need. We need a Bible that, one, documents what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. Yes. We need a manual. The Bible is nothing more than a manual. The Quran is nothing more than a manual. That literally Muhammad looked around at his people and decided, fellas, you need to change your ways. And this is how we shall go about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll not show up and eat without washing your hands. Which just tells you, just try and think what life must have been before that was a requirement. Mm. He saw it. Yeah. So the same thing is all the stupidity we are seeing around us is because no one is thinking before acting. Yeah. And we are not being given direction. So hopefully with this, we'll start.
It's a journey. This is the manual.
Thanks.
But it's interesting what you've said, because even with Martin Luther with the printing press,
yes,
it was how do we stop? That time it was the Catholic that was, giving people get pass to heaven.
Yes,
and that's how he was able to translate the Bible so people can read and make sense of it. And it was like, this is happening, this is heresy and everything, but the Bible is not saying
it is.
So it was quite. So I think you are the Martin Luther of.
Well, it's a high ideal, But you think about it.
Yeah.
If he could think that way then, shouldn't we be able to think much better?
Because we have more.
Yes. So why are we thinking less today than we thought 100 years ago?
I think for me, I'll take you back to The New Brave World, the book by Huxley.
Yes.
Where he talks about all this destruction will be brought just to make sure we don't see what is important.
Okay. So there's even a document.
There is a document.
So it's a manual for how to keep us.
Yes, how to keep us. Because at that point, the conversation was between Orwell's 1984
Yes.
and Huxley's, who painted a better future.
Yes.
Because both of them tried to predict what the future might look like. And for Orwell, it was information is going to be locked. No one is going to access it. And then Huxley was, no. You'll be given everything. You'll be given superstars to follow. You'll be given,
So there are two ways to deal with the issue.
Yeah.
You can either starve it,
yes,
or flood it.
And clearly what we have is flooding.
It's flooding. Yeah. So now the question becomes, only those who will be able to filter through and only pick what is of value will survive.
Going to the point of being conscious.
Yes.
Let's put the curtain on this, because I think we say be conscious, you're living unconsciously. But I think it's not. I don't think it's easily copy and paste.
How does a child learn to walk?
It's a conscious effort. So at what point do we lose it?
When we can walk.
So when your mind
and you take it for granted.
Yeah.
Yes.
When your mind can be able to, create.
Basically, it just still comes back down to the whole issue is that your brain needs to conserve energy. So if something is repetitive, it will not pass it through the thinking process. It will hard code it to just go straight through. Yes.
So it's more of, let's form this habit. I know how to do this.
Yes.
So you figure out something else.
Yeah.
So do you go figure out something else, or do you?
It has to be.
How do you bring that conscious effort back?
One bit at a time. Pick one thing. Yes. And make yourself conscious of that thing every time you do it. Yes. Your credit card is the same thing. Your Fulizas, your what? Is I need to take away the process of you deciding about whether to buy something or not. Yeah.
That is actually very true. That is from experience. Especially with the credit card. It's so easy because you're not losing. You're not losing.
Fuliza is a credit card.
Yeah.
Yes. 1945-46 said the last greatest invention by man is a creation of consumer credit.
Yeah.
Yes. Forget the internet and all that. All those are neither here nor there. But the fact that you could give a consumer credit, make them spend tomorrow's shilling today. It's brilliant. Yes.
Why are you speaking like it's a brilliant invention? I mean, people got to have access to education, on things like higher loans, higher education loans. People got to
for what purpose?
Build houses.
No, again, for what purpose? Why do you need that high education? Why do you need to go and sacrifice your next 200 paychecks to acquire a skill which has a finite term? There are so I was sitting with some people and I asked them, okay, fine, what were you told when you graduated? And they said, something about reading.
What do you mean something about reading? You should have had it.
They didn't. And I asked them, why didn't? They said, we were many and it was. And I'm thinking, the 4 years, the 5 years, this was a culmination. And then you're giving a statement which you did not hear. Then you come out and tell the government there are no jobs. At no point in the 5 years or 6 years or 4 years of university are you told at the end of this you shall get a job. The The power to read and do everything that pertains to this degree. First, the power to read, which means you do not stop. You're just starting the reading process. We haven't read the Constitution. We haven't read the Finance Bill. We shall not read the Finance Act, but we shall continue to comment about it. Yes. So a problem is there. And we're producing graduates in droves now. We have inverted our pyramid. We are doing more graduates now than artisans. Then what's going to happen? We need artisans, so we'll have to use graduates as
artisans.
Yeah. That's where we are going. Assuming we're not already there.
Let's pause this. We'll continue this.
Asante.